I'm doing all the right things. I filter my water. I eat all organic. I'm exercising every day. But I was like, I am really stressed. Like something internally is off. Our body doesn't know the difference between running from a tiger and scrolling. So even if we just think we're mindlessly scrolling and watching reels on Instagram while we're eating our lunch, it's a stress. Many years ago, they did a study looking at cord blood of newborn babies, and like the average baby was born with almost 300 chemicals in their cord blood. There's so much that in modern life, I feel like that's kind of creating dysbiosis and disharmony within our physical bodies and our nervous system that we're up against. What we used to classify as normal is 50% of sperm being normal shape. Now it's 4%.
What?
4% is the standard. Optimal is at least 15% normal shape.
That's
So,
it to be optimal?
at this stage.
15%.
At this stage, like that's the
scary.
best. And I've never seen 15%. The number one thing that influences the expression of your genes that you're passing to your kids is your thoughts.
Yes. Yes.
It's like when you learn that and you're like,
Whoa.
oh, this is really important.
Yeah, bomb drop. All right, today I have in the studio Dr. Elizabeth Wade. She's a fertility and hormone specialist, and we all know that we want our hormones optimized so we can feel amazing, look amazing, and live our best lives. And hormones have such a big part in longevity. And we hear a lot about hormones, but we're missing a lot of the story when we focus on tests and supplements and all these things we can buy, and we're missing a huge facet, which is our own inner thoughts, our own inner world, and how we perceive the world, and how much of a huge impact that has on our epigenetics and our children's epigenetics, and how we're imprinting our offspring. So not just ourselves, but our children. And so I'm excited to get into this topic with you because I know we have some juicy things we're going to uncover today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You came all the way from Portland.
I did.
How exciting.
Yes.
Is it so much more beautiful here?
It's so much more beautiful here. I was just saying, is it like this every day? It's so nice. It's like the perfect day right now. It's amazing.
I feel like 75% of the time it's a perfect day in San Diego, you know?
Pretty grateful.
It's awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you here in the studio and can't wait to talk about these juicy topics because we both know we were just talking before we started recording. We have a very similar journey in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Being married for a long time. You said you were married for 14 years?
Yeah, and together with my ex for 14 years and the father of my kids, and separated 2 years ago. It's a big opportunity for growth that I'm really grateful for. Yeah.
And also very, like, that's a lot. That is a lot.
It was a lot. Not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, definitely the first year was like the worst year of my life. But, it needed to happen, and it's been so beautiful actually, like coming home to myself on the other end. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to get into that a little more because this is something that isn't talked about a lot. And I can resonate with it because you're a naturopathic doctor. I own a functional medicine clinic, working with patients, doing tests, giving supplements, protocols, things that are all really, really good. But my own personal story and the story I see of so many of my patients and clients is that they can do all of these amazing things and spend all this money, but you really can't hack your way out of an unhealthy mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to get into this today because it sounds like for you, this was a huge awakening for you as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that awakening and how you are doing these amazing protocols and all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, this is only part of the story.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thanks for the invitation to share. I'm a double Virgo, so like very stereotypical, I like to follow the rules and do all the things. And I never really intended to be a doctor, but kind of found my way to naturopathic medicine just out of my own passion later in life, like just really wanting to I was into yoga and really into nutrition and started to realize that mindset and all that stuff was a bigger part of health. And so I was like, this is what I'm spending all my time doing and focusing on. So I want to align my career, right? And be in alignment with my passion. And so I went back to naturopathic medical school kind of late when I was 30. And and so I had this, big career change, but naturopathic medicine is my passion. So I'm like really living a living example. I think of like I practice what I preach, and I'm very proud of that. But I kind of had this moment, after my second child was born, my daughter, who's now 4, where I was like, I'm doing all the right things. I have air purifiers in every room. I filter my water. I eat all organic. I'm exercising every day. I have great friendships. But I was like, I am really stressed and I'm
Mhm.
not like something internally is off. I'm not happy. Like there's like a
Yeah.
discontent in my soul. And it was like, a very big thing to sit with. 'Cause I'm like, well, what do I do? And in my relationship, I love the father of my kids. He's an amazing human being, but we were together for so long. We just grew in different
Yeah.
directions. And we just weren't making each other happy. Like there was increased stress in the house, and that was making me not be my best as a parent. And just some other, other relationships, key relationships in my life that were stressful and I wasn't having good boundaries with. And it's hard to set boundaries with people you love and that you're close with. And so I started, I was sitting in this women's circle a lot and I was, in certain containers starting to really come to the realization that like my life needed to really fall apart in some way that I wasn't letting it. And I was really sitting with that. And, the topic of separation came on the table. And when that happened, like everything kind of fell apart in my life in a way that was very disorienting. I lost my nanny of 2 years. She went back to school, but she was like my daughter's second mom. I found out I had mold in my house. So I had to move out of the home that I owned and had credible amount of like home remediation costs and had to live in Airbnbs, like at the same time of going through a separation for 14 years. So it was literally felt like every like floor had been ripped out from under me. And I had lost my dad like a year previously. It was just like everything was kind of crumbling at once. And even though it was so hard, it was this immense catalyst for like this reexamination of my life and the things that were in disharmony. Because, like you said, like you can do all the right things on paper, but if you're not like truly happy, and I really equate like my own experience was like my relationship to self needed to heal.
Yeah.
And, I think that was my contribution to like the disease in my relationship, that like my relationship to self like hadn't been fully
Mm.
healed from childhood. And so I couldn't show up, in the
Mhm.
best way. And then, it feeds off of each other,
Yep.
right? And so by having this, the worst year of my life, I mean, I cried every single day and like didn't know how I was gonna really
Oh,
make it some days, but
yeah.
I also knew it had to happen, and I had so much community around me. I mean, that's so, I'm so grateful for like my friendships and just I feel like there were angels honestly showing up in like every direction, like the universe just like showing me you're supported. And that was 2024. And last year, like 2025, the start of the year, like a year after it all started happening, I mean, I just kind of recommitted to myself on this journey of like, I am going to do everything and anything I can to protect my nervous system first and foremost. And so that, as somebody who owns their own business and like is very high achieving and wants success and wants wealth, like that meant like saying no to work, and
Mhm.
putting boundaries around how much I'd let myself work and prioritizing sleep and like really feeling into situations where like I'm not overextending myself and I'm not saying yes to things that put me in uncomfortable situations with certain relationship dynamics and things like that. And it has been like the most beautiful, honestly, thing. And I feel like it's all part of this process as my work as a healer because this is what I see around me in my patients. They are overwhelmed,
Mhm.
if it's not their primary relationship, it's like a relationship with a mother or father or a sibling or their employer or their self, that people are having or the world is just like, overconsumption of news and how messed up is the world. And so it's like people are having such a hard time processing the emotions around them and digesting the world around them. that we lose sight, of and we try to micromanage then what we can control, right? With supplements and diet and all these things. But we really can't, I don't think at this point in my career, be healthy, without examining our nervous system, without examining our stress, without examining our relationship to self. And what's really interesting about fertility, and how this bridges into everything I've been focused on career wise is like the number one thing that influences our epigenetic potential, which is essentially what that means is like your epigenetics is how your genes are passed down to your children and then your grandchildren and even generations beyond that. And the number one thing that influences the expression of your genes that you're passing to your kids is your thoughts.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's like when you learn that and you're like, oh,
Whoa.
this is really important.
Yeah, bomb drop, right?
Hmm.
I wish I would have known that when I was pregnant.
Me too.
I wish somebody would have told me. So for all the women who are wanting to conceive, here's your golden nugget that we,
Hmm.
I wish someone would have shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way you perceive things. Thank you for sharing that. It's really, I'm sure, cathartic for people that are going through something similar to hear your story and know they're not alone.
Mhm.
I wish, when I was going through a similar situation, that there would have been somebody that could have gone before me in that and been able to resonate and share, because it feels so lonely and it's so scary and so overwhelming. And like you said, you're high achieving, you have all these things going on in your life, and it's hard to stop and fall apart. Like
Mhm.
where can you do that when you're a mom, you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, even a wife at the time, and like even if you're uncoupling, it's a process that you've got to go through
Yeah.
and be the best version of yourself through it. And how do you do that, right? Like
Mhm.
sometimes you just want to crawl in a corner and just have nobody talk to you because your nervous system's dysregulated. And
Mhm.
and I feel like the hardest thing as a mom is when you're dysregulated and your child's dysregulated and you're dysregulated together and you have
Oh
to be the one to
gosh.
help. You're like,
I
no,
know.
I can't right
I know.
now.
But like that, I mean, I think about that every day now. It's like how I am so much more regulated and how that influences my parenting. Like my kids are
Mm-hmm.
young, they're 4 and 8. And it's, they are so tuned in to me. They're not
Yeah.
yet like really in their own worlds. They're like very tuned into my world. So I'm like, I'm setting the tone for the nervous system of the house at every
Yes.
minute. And
You're the queen.
yeah, I'm like the nervous system regulator for the home, and it's a
Yeah.
big responsibility to hold. And I'm just so grateful that like before it went on any longer, right? Like I prioritized that so that that's what they're seeing. And the separation is super hard for them. My daughter asks almost every day, like, can you and dad please move it back in together?
Oh.
But it's so much more important that she's seeing like we are finding our way back to each other as friends. And we have such a dedication to like treating each other lovingly and with respect and being cooperative. And they get to see that, which is so much easier for us not living together and being able to like blossom in the way that we need to. But that doesn't mean together, and that I'm just, even though it's hard for them, I'm glad that they're getting the gift of that, of seeing like, oh, my parents actually love each other and they
Yeah.
have a good relationship, um, instead of like us trying to force, it to work for their sake, which, I've had so many women reach out to me and it's like, how did you know it was time to leave?
Mm-hmm.
How is this affecting your kids? And it's never easy, right? It's like a very hard decision to make. And, but you have to kind of weigh, the benefits versus the risks, I think. And yeah, your ecosystem. I mean, I study the gut microbiome a lot, and it's like we share a microbiome with the people we live with.
Yeah.
Like we share everything. Our
Yes.
relationship to ourselves then reflects the relationships around us, our children, our friends, our coworkers. Like it's all
It
connected.
is. Totally. Yeah. It is a big responsibility to be the nervous system grounding person and when it's really hard. And I want to get more into that on give us practical tips on how to do
Mm-hmm.
that. But before we talk about that, I really, bringing up how difficult it is to uncouple and how hard it is for the kids. coming from somebody who's a couple years ahead of you now, my daughters are 19 and 20, and they were 8 and 9 when we first separated. And it was the same thing. They wanted us to be together. And it's so hard because you have this pull to want to just please them and do everything for them to be happy and be okay. When there's another part of you saying, what's happening over here in this relationship is not okay.
Mhm.
And everyone that's, maybe going through an uncoupling, it's painful. It
Very
is so
so
painful.
painful.
Any way you lay it out, it feels like a
Mhm.
piece of your body has been cut off. And it felt for me more painful than any physical pain I'd ever felt. And it's something that you can't do anything about. You're just like, it's like a tidal wave. And
Mhm.
the thing that can be, I guess, tempting is that when you're feeling that way, to get into these situations with your partner and want to it, the kids are always impacted by it. So when we were not connecting on something, we weren't aligned on something, and we're in dissonance, and there's anger and frustration, it was easy to want to say, forget you, I don't want to go to this thing with you, I don't want to hang out with you. And it took everything inside of me. I think one of the hardest things was when the kids would have events or soccer games or, whatever they had going on, which is all the time,
Mhm.
to sit next to their dad and to smile. And inside, I would be so angry because I'm like, I'm putting on a show still. I'm faking it.
Mhm.
But I had to do that because I was choosing them and I knew they were watching.
Mhm.
And so many people in our kids' school did not know we were getting divorced, or even divorced later, years later. They're like, I had no idea you guys were divorced. You always laugh together and sit together. And
Mhm.
later on, I realized what an impact it made on other families and our own children, and how now we're still a family.
Mhm.
We don't, we're not the father of my daughters, we're not lovers, but we're a family.
Yeah.
And we'll always be a family, and we chose that.
Mhm.
Was it easy? Absolutely not. I think that was one of the hardest things
Yeah,
that
I
I
would
ever
agree.
had to do, was sit there and, like, when you're hurt by this person, when you feel like something may have been unjust or not right, and you just want to just shut down, to choose the kids and to be like, no, you know what? I'm going to choose peace and harmony. And it healed me. But
Yeah.
it was not, it's like, you got to fake it to make it sometimes. I had to put on the face, to smile, to be there for them. And it ended up healing me over time. It's not something that happened fast. It's not something,
Mhm.
healing isn't linear either. It
Right.
wasn't like, oh, one day I woke up and I was healed.
Right.
Sometimes I thought I was because I was having a good day.
Yeah.
Then it just hits you, or
Definitely.
you're right back where you were, and you're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, no, it's not. But
Mhm.
the good days got better and better and better. And now looking back, whatever, 11 years later, I feel like, wow, I'm so glad that I kept making that choice. Was I perfect? No, absolutely not. But choosing to say, I'm going to choose to be a family, choose peace over living in anger.
Yeah. I think that's what health is. I think it's a constant recommitment to choose the best option for your highest self. It's like, I mean, that's with diet. It's like people will get on like a really good diet and then they go on vacation or something happens and, and then you just have to recommit. It's like there's a relationship with self, there's going to be days where we feel not super great, something triggers us, or we don't get a job or something, we have a breakup and then we start questioning our self-worth and we just have to recommit, to like ourself. We're gonna have days where we don't parent well, and I that's like my biggest source of anxiety is worrying that I'm messing my kids up, so I notice now when like, if my son is having anxiety or something, and then my inner voice starts being like, what did I do to cause this? I have to be like, no, I am doing my best. I know I'm doing my best, like I'm not going to go down that path of like punishing myself or thinking that,
Yeah.
because I am trying my hardest. And like,
Yeah.
it's just, I think there's constant invitations, right? To
Yeah.
tune in and like choose the higher path, the higher aligned like mental path to go down, because it's just, it is a choice. And I mean, I remember being told in medical school, like, fake it till you make it, like when you first start, you're gonna feel like you know nothing. And like, in order to just like get to feeling like you know something, you just gotta fake it till you make it. Like, go into the office and act like you know what you're doing, and ask for help, but at some point you will. And now I'm telling my patients, like, you may not love yourself. You may not love the way you look, but you need to look in the mirror and you need to start saying positive things to yourself. And you need to
Mhm.
start like feeling that, faking that confidence until you rewire your brain. Because we know with neuroplasticity and all these cool studies that have come out in neuroscience that like those words and positive affirmations and things that you say, the words that you speak, like they do change the way your body and your brain actually interpret like your own feelings and self-perception. So it's not woo. It sounds really woo, but it actually is scientifically proven. Like if we just tell ourselves what we want, and like put that out, that manifestation out, it will actually, if we say it enough times, like we will start to maybe believe it, or it might get easier to be in that energetic state, to be in that path versus like just the self-deprecating. Like, I mean, so many moms, I work with so many moms, and like the mom guilt, I don't know, just the overwhelm, the pressure for perfection. It's so toxic and it's not helpful. It's not helping any of us,
Yeah, 100%. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because it's so true. And the more compassion we have with ourselves, the more compassion we can have with others. So it's
Mm-hmm.
learning to have compassion with ourselves. Hey, I didn't do that in my highest self,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to choose again.
Yeah.
It's not about doing the same thing you don't like over and over. It's
Mm-hmm.
every time we do, we get to say, I get to choose again.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing you say is it's a lot of it is about our story and our perception and our relationship with self. And that's where the biggest nugget of transformation can take place. And because it's like, okay, we're talking about something very difficult that we've walked through, and maybe someone else is going through this and they're just starting it, or they're going through it and it's like nothing's working. I felt that so many times. Nothing's working. I'm going to therapy. I'm doing all these things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just still so stuck. I used to get really, really, really discouraged because I thought, gosh, I'm in this industry where I know all the best doctors and healers. I mean, if anyone can do it, it's me. I'm so supported. But
Mm-hmm.
I would get into these moments where I just felt so stuck. And it was really the stuck places were just the stories I was telling myself, the meaning I was attaching to what had happened.
Mm-hmm.
I was choosing the meaning. Oh, because this happened, it must be because of this. And we're often not even aware of the meaning that we place on whatever events transpired in our lives. And when we slow down,
Mm-hmm.
it can be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
We want to pick up our phone. We want to go do something, go to the refrigerator, eat something, or whatever it is to distract ourselves from being able to slow down and actually get in touch with that narrative that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But unless we slow down, we can't get in touch with it. And yes, it may be uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the only way through.
Yeah, I agree.
One of my favorite things to do when I prep for the gym is to get my blood moving. And the way that I do that is by reducing inflammation and adding some nitric oxide to my blood. I love HydroShot. Not only does it taste delicious, but it has hydrogen gas infused into the can, as well as natural occurring nitric oxide from watermelon rind with green tea, and it's 0 calories.
I have a practice where I really challenge myself, anytime I like have an assumption or jump to some narrative, especially one that I know keeps coming up. It's like, is that true?
Yeah.
Just asking that simple question, is that true? And if it's like, if you can't verify it's true, like, why do we waste so much energy, right? Like
Yeah.
with patterns and thoughts. And it's challenging. I mean, there's so much that affects us. We know through the study of epigenetics that like because they've done studies on like the Great Depression and how people who went through, you know, that time, like their genome passed on to their grandchildren, like affects them. So this is where the studies of epigenetics came from, through studying people that went through like very hard times and how that genetic imprint it goes on to influence generations to come. And so we're not coming to this into this world as empty, like as a clean slate. Like people think babies are just like waltzing into the world as a clean slate, and that is not true. Like
Fresh, new. Yeah, you're a baby.
it's as fresh as you're ever gonna be, but like, the things that, it's not all in our control. So we just have to give ourselves so much grace. So, one of the things doctors like I work as a consultant for a stool company, and doctors will run the stool test on themselves and they'll be doing all the right things. And I can empathize with this so much as a Virgo and a perfectionist. And they're like, when I'm doing everything right, how could my gut
My stool looking
how
like
could
this?
my gut look like this,
Yeah.
And it's like the most humbling thing is, especially
Yeah.
as a provider who's trying so hard,
Right.
right, to do all the right things, and then something goes awry and you're like, what, me?
And you're trying to guide other people.
Right, and then you feel like an imposter,
yeah,
you
you're
know?
like, wait a minute, how come I'm not perfect? I'm doing all the things. Yeah.
And that just comes up so much, but it's like we have to remember that, like the gut, for instance, using that as an example, like from, what your parents' influences were before they conceived you to what was happening during pregnancy and gestation for your mother, to the type of delivery you had, vaginal, C-section, to if you had early antibiotic exposure in the first few years of life, what foods you were fed, if you had a dog or a pet in your home, like, all these things influence then your microbiome for life. So you could be doing a really great job as an adult and still having challenges and then be frustrated or feel like, you're failing in some way. But it's like, we're all just doing our best. And how much better would the world be if we could, one, like, recognize that within ourselves and give ourselves the grace and the compassion that we would hopefully give our child, of like talking to them if they were in a really low spot, of like, you are trying your best and like your best is enough. And, like, there's always room for growth and there's always room for things to shift, but like, don't spend time, right, just like ruminating on things that maybe you can't change. Just feel empowered about moving forward and, trying to make as many choices that you can that lead to a full and enriching life. And I just think there's, so much within that we have to understand with health too, is that, we're not coming in with these clean slates. And many years ago, the Environmental Working Group did a study looking at cord blood of newborn babies, and like this was maybe 15 years ago or more now, but like the average baby was born with almost 300 chemicals in their cord blood. I mean, there's so many toxins. There's just, there's so much that in modern life, I feel like that's kind of creating dysbiosis and disharmony within our physical bodies and our nervous system,
Yeah.
that we're up against. And so, like, even more reason, right, to be compassionate with ourselves and with others, and just try to, understand that, like, there's always room for growth, and like, there's no algorithm. It's like, do all these things and this equals this perfect outcome, because if there was,
We'd all be doing it.
we'd all be
right?
doing it, and we wouldn't have the health stats that we
Yeah.
have now. Like, clearly whatever we're doing in modern medicine isn't really working, because the statistics on childhood illness are really wild. Like, 1
Yeah.
in 2 children, I think in 1990 the stats said 1 in 2 children have a chronic disease. In 1990, 1 in 2,
Wow.
and then it's like, and then if you include obesity is not even included in that, but if you include obesity, it's even more. And I'm sure now it's gotten even worse, like autoimmune disease, depression, there's just like
Allergies.
allergies. There are really some very serious, health like things that we're up against, as a society, and children are not immune. Like, they once, I feel like kids were generally healthy until like their 30s or 40s, but now we're seeing all these children that are sick. So, something that I'm trying to do in my practice is really, I have so much information. I'm like, I love information. I've been studying fertility, I've been studying the microbiome, and something I've noticed as I teach workshops and stuff, that sometimes I can like throw out all these stats and it totally overwhelms people, because they're like, oh my gosh, like, especially when you talk about the gut microbiome, everything influences it. So when you like try to teach people about how stress and sleep and their food choices and, antibiotic exposure and, toxins in their environment, like everything impacts it, exercise, they can be like, what's the point? Like, it's like
Yeah.
there's so many
Even your
offenders.
partner who you're kissing
Right, your
or having sex
partner, who you're
with, or,
living with,
yeah,
like
your
it,
pets.
or your pet. So, I've noticed like it can be, and that's just a theme that I think is very present in functional medicine. Like I'm in, a bubble on the internet, following a lot of other naturopaths, functional health, wellness people. There's a lot of noise, and it's good noise a lot of times, but there's also just like a lot of information. There's like an overwhelm, I think, in
Yeah.
access to information, and it overwhelms people,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, just trying to like sometimes take it back to the basics, trying to just get really clear and like how do we integrate information in an empowering way? How do we become informed? How do I, as a doctor and an educator, share what I know in a way that isn't contributing to the overwhelm in
Mm-hmm.
society? That's something that I feel very clear about right now that I'm trying to do in my education in this world is like, I don't want to add to the overwhelm that my patients are
Right.
experiencing. So, how do I, distill this information in a way that feels like they can digest it, that empowers them, that just doesn't create, because, I had a patient last week who was like, if I have one more influencer tell me I need to be eating 30 grams of protein a day, because I was like, she doesn't eat protein at all with breakfast, oatmeal. And I was like, you really should add some protein to your breakfast. And she's like, she threw her hands up and she's like, I can't hear that anymore. And I'm like, I get it. We're all following in this world, like we're all hearing the same things, but also there's validity in a lot of that
Yeah.
information. But again, like how do we help? The overwhelm is a huge issue that I'm
Right.
seeing in my practice
Yeah.
right now. So how do I,
So much information. Then how do you
mm-hmm,
know how to, like you said, distill it down to
mm-hmm,
what's going to work for me? What
mm-hmm.
can I implement right now? What can I make a part of my lifestyle? Not just a weekend warrior thing, but something
Right.
I can actually bring into my life. That's why I wrote my book, Hydrate. It's like the 9 pillars of health, things that are already given to all of us, like sunlight and
Mm-hmm.
grounding and water and minerals and sleep and all the things that we can do, but how to make it playful, how to make it fun, how to integrate it into your life so it's a lifestyle
Right.
where you're getting the basics, like the foundation of health. And then anything you want to add on top of that is cherry on top, fun
Mm-hmm.
stuff like contrast therapy or
Mm-hmm.
oxygen therapy or hydrogen therapy, all these things. That's fun. But if we're not doing the basics, then we don't have that like ground soil for all of these beautiful fruits to grow.
Yeah.
And I really love, love, love that you are focusing on helping people feel empowered.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree with you. There's so much information out there and good stuff, people sharing things. But if there's fear mongering or if it's coming from a place of fear, already that's setting our nervous system out of balance.
Right.
Like we don't need to be afraid. That's
Right.
the last thing we need is to be afraid. We
Mm-hmm.
get to feel empowered.
Right.
Okay, what are my resources? What's going on around me? How
Mm-hmm.
can I use this to make
Mm-hmm.
the best life that I can?
Yeah.
And then people like us who are educated in this, we get to share it in a way that gives people the education that they need to make the most empowered decision for themselves, the most educated decision, but from a place of confidence, from a
Mm-hmm.
place of, I get to do this, or not that they're going to be sick because they can't afford this microbiome test or they can't afford this whatever. No. Those are extra things. Let's focus on what everyone has access to
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
make it playful, make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
Once I started to add play back into my life, get more present, start to build that relationship with myself and stop outsourcing everything about my happiness and what I need for someone else to provide or think of me or say for me to feel good. Once I started to really get in touch with that, like life becomes so juicy. Not that it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's
Of
still
course.
hard.
Yeah. I don't think
There's no
there's
way
any
around
escaping
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're always going to have hard things. It's our relationship with whatever's happening. And we don't even have to look at it as hard. It's the perception of, oh, here's an opportunity coming towards me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's going to be maybe a little painful, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to take it on
Yeah.
because I know that I have the tools.
Right. Developing that resiliency, that capacity is huge. And I would agree. I don't know if you felt this in the years post separation, but I think the silver lining for me, after having been in a relationship for 14 years is like you kind especially as a mother, then it's like your whole identity becomes wrapped up into being a mom and, in this partnership. And I didn't know who I was. Like that was one of the scariest things. I was like, I don't even know who I am without you. Like,
Yeah.
even though I knew it wasn't working, like that was one of the biggest thoughts that kept coming in my mind of like, how
Mm.
I don't even know how to live without you. And while it was so scary, that first year, once I got through that first year, like all of 2025, I just like I love to travel. And so I went on this sail retreat and I met all these amazing people. Then I started singing and I started teaching myself the ukulele. And I like always loved dance. And now I dance almost every day. And I'm like very into dance. And I've had all this opportunity to like again drop into joy and play, and it's also healthy. Like I get
Yeah.
movement every day. I mean, I do other things too, but I generally like I
You're
love
habit
dance.
stacking. When you're
You
dancing, you're
know?
moving, you're playing,
Yeah, and
you're
it's like
yeah.
fun and it I feel like it's so good for sexual health because you're like in your body and I've become more
Mhm.
embodied, like learning to use my voice and sing and learning to be in my body in like a really playful way that feels really sexy and good. It's like it's all so good to like to learn who you are and what lights you up and not make health like daunting. Some people like, I feel like are just really overwhelmed by the idea of taking care of themselves and cooking for themselves or moving their body every day. But I always try to reframe it. It's like it's an invitation to like reparent yourself and to choose yourself. It's like
Mhm.
when you make the time to cook, it's like you're choosing to like that's like a form of self-love. So it's like,
Yeah.
just like how do we just love ourselves so much, and like kind of fall back in love with ourselves. And I always just say like if you had a child, like you probably wouldn't just like feed them a bar or feed, some people do because they're on the run and they're busy, but on a daily basis. You probably wouldn't like skip meals for your child and things like that. But I know so many moms who are just like, oh, I don't have time to eat. So I'm grabbing a bar, I just eat my kids' leftovers and it's like these things they do take a lot of work and they do take a lot of energy. But it's like I also kind of think that's if you don't think you're worth drinking water, if you don't think like your body needs water, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't tell you the amount of patients that are like, oh, I drink like 20, well, maybe 20 ounces a day. And
Yeah.
I was
But
like,
isn't there water in coffee and tea and, like, Gatorade? And so I am drinking a
I
lot of water,
know.
right?
And they're like so down to take all the things. And I'm like, we really need to
Yeah.
focus on the water. Like we need to get sleep, water, those foundations. They're really
Why is it that people wanna spend a lot of money on supplements, but they don't wanna do the things that are free? That's what is it about us as humans? 'Cause I'm not, like, apart from that. It feels good to buy something, to be a consumer,
right.
to say, "I bought this pill, so I'm gonna feel good, so now I don't need to go do the work of waking up and drinking my water or going to work out or having a good mindset. I can just buy my way into health."
I think modern life just like there's a scarcity, like time is so scarce. Like people are so, overwhelmed with the amount of stuff they have to do. So I think we're just naturally inclined, right, to like choose the things that are quicker and more convenient,
Mhm.
because we have to, there's so people like nobody has like a 9 to 5 job anymore that just like ends at 5. Like I feel like even when people work from home or work in an office, like everybody's checking their email 24/7, like working in the evening, like I just have so many patients who are like, well, I can't sleep, like I have to go stay up after my kids go to bed because I have to log back on and like work more in the night. And I do
Mm.
that too. I have to close charts a lot of time after my kids go to bed. So there's a lot of just demand on us,
Yeah.
and I think
So little time, so many things we wanna do.
Yeah, and I just think it's, if you don't prioritize it, I think it's really easy to get away from you.
Yes.
If you aren't consciously being like, I am going to make sure this happens every day. For me, usually I have to work out in the morning because if I don't work out in the morning, then usually like my day just swallows me up, right?
Yep.
So I know like if I want to prioritize movement, I have to get up early and do that, or put it like look at my calendar and make sure I'm like penciling it in like a meeting. And I tell people the same with water. I'll be like, fill a pitcher, half your body weight in ounces that you have to drink every day, and make sure like by dinner time that pitcher's almost empty.
You
Like,
live it. You walked in with a thing of water.
yeah, no, always water.
I
I
was
love
proud of
herbal
you.
tea too, but like fine. A lot of people are like, I don't like water. I'm like, then get some electrolytes you like, put some salt, like do
Yeah.
fruit water, just do something.
Yeah.
We need to be hydrated. That's your
Yeah.
podcast. We need to be hydrated.
Absolutely. Yes. Hydration is life.
Yes.
I love this. Okay, so I want to get into some more practical tips with you because
Mhm.
I'm sure you have so many. And I just love how you're talking about the habit stacking too. Because, man, that's as a mom, there's nothing better than that. Like, you can get so busy doing all the things. And I know for me, one of the things was like, how do you spend quality time with your kids, especially when you're separated? Because the girl's dad would have them on the weekends. So I'd have them the weekdays when it's like they're doing homework, and at night the whole day could get away with us, and then we don't have any fun time together. So I was like, look, I'm not going to cook dinner alone, because as a mom, usually you cook dinner, they're doing homework or watching TV or whatever. And I'm like, no, we're going to do it together. We're going to turn on our favorite songs. We're
Love that.
dancing in the kitchen. We're
Mhm.
talking, we're laughing, we're talking about the day from school, and cooking together. Okay, Parker, you're going to chop over here. Grace, you're going to saute. And we're just working together. Everyone has a job, and we became the Three Musketeers. Like, our relationship got closer
I love that.
because I also invited them in to say, look, you're a kid, and I want you to still be a kid. I don't want you to have the responsibility. Also, I want to be a unit where we work together, right? It's not just about mommy doing everything for you. It's about, I'm here to launch you. So I get to teach you how to do laundry. I get to teach you how to cook. I get to teach you how to clean, and we're going to do it together so that you're learning. And also, we're working together in the home.
Mhm.
And then we're spending time together. And so it's like the
Yeah.
stacking thing.
Mhm.
And it became so beautiful.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think I don't know if you know, I don't know if it's Alyssa or Lee Sung, Dr. Lee Sung. She's in LA or maybe the Bay Area, but she's a pretty famous pediatrician. And I saw her at a conference last year. She was at a conference that I was at, and she was talking about the importance of teaching children how to read labels when they're young, like getting children involved and understanding nutrition. And something that my ex and I would always have friction about is like, I'm really into health and nutrition. So he's like, I'm afraid our kids are going to have, eating dysphoria or something because, you're like so strict with like food. But I educate them, and they know, and they like want to eat well.
Yeah.
Like my son had something really cute, I don't know, 6 months ago. He's like, where's the healthiest place to live in the world? And I was like, I don't know, like probably in Norway or Denmark, like one of those countries, and he's like, I want to live there.
Oh, cute.
And I was like, I love that for you. But yeah, I feel like if you get the family involved, like what you were doing, if you teach your kids how to cook, right? Like what a great skill for them to learn, and make it fun,
Make it
right?
fun,
So make
yeah.
it fun. You're making it
It's
fun.
not a job. It's a fun
like,
thing.
it's a way to connect. It's a
Yeah.
way to like bring joy, like play. Like that's so beautiful, and what like great then like attachment they're going to have to the process of cooking, and hopefully pass that down to their kids and then, yeah, if like you're getting them involved, you're chopping vegetables. Like I try to do that with my kids too. They're still a little young, but they love when I get them involved, and sometimes it takes more effort. It's more cleanup,
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not always perfect.
it's not always
Sometimes,
perfect.
like, I don't want to do it. Sometimes we don't feel like dancing. So
Yeah.
whatever. It's not like it's always like that. But we got to a place where it was like that a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it can take some work. But like my daughter's 20, and she always calls me. She's the one making the food for all her roommates.
Yeah.
And the other daughter who has to eat at the cafeteria now, she's always like going to the store to buy healthy things, and she's just so aware. So it is like great job on teaching your kids when they're young how to read labels and empower them, because when they get older, I will tell you, it's so beneficial. I don't have to think about my teenage daughters in college being healthy because it's ingrained in them.
Yeah.
Their roommates are always telling them, you guys, you're like the healthiest person I know your age, and it's because they're making that choice, but they've been empowered
They've been empowered
to make that choice. So, okay, let's get into some fun, juicy stuff. So, not that nothing we were talking about was juicy, but you are a fertility and hormone specialist. So, there's a lot of people trying to get pregnant. We hear these stories about somebody who's been trying for years to get pregnant, and then they adopt, and right after they adopt, they get pregnant. What do
Mm-hmm.
you like? There's so much of this, right?
Yeah, I know. I have a really, I mean, this is not like I'm doing studies in my office, but just in my mind, like kind of tracking, because having been in practice now for a while, I've seen couples who have had a really hard time, conceiving, then separate, and like just kind of like being curious, like I wonder if that's why. And then sometimes those women will go on to like repartner and have no fertility issues, and I've seen that happen a few
Oh.
times. And I'm just very curious. I mean, from me with my daughter, I got pregnant with her, I think on the fifth try. And I recognize that, is not that long to try. But as a fertility specialist, it was really rubbing up against my ego. It was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, like I wanted that first, with my son, it was the second try. But I was like, after like the second or third try, I was kind of freaking out, it was like very much dismantling this. Like, I was like, I do all the right things. How could I be struggling?
Yeah.
Right. And we were trying to buy a house at that time, and we were looking. I think we went and looked at like 100 homes in like an 8-month period. It was insane. Like the interest rates were like 2.3%. So like everybody was buying. It was just like a crazy time. So it was really stressful. And once we bought our home that month, that we moved in, I conceived her. And I almost feel like she just like knew, right? That like, okay, now is a safe time to come
Yeah.
in. Like
Yeah.
everything's a little bit calmer,
Right.
like they're not as stressed. And I do believe in like this divine timing. If there's so much unexplained fertility, there's no algorithm that can like get you a baby. And I
Right.
feel that there's a lot of fear. Like I have a preconception program, and I'm a big advocate, and I want people to know what helps them set up the healthiest foundation for pregnancy so that one, they don't have as many struggles, reduces risk of miscarriage, healthier baby, healthier postpartum for mom, like less health risks down the road. There's so many benefits, right, to kind of working in the trimester before you conceive to get your body ready. But I have a really hard time with the like marketing and sales of it because I don't want to like be driving fear into the world of infertility. I
Yeah.
see that with so many of my patients where they're coming in, they're going to try in a year or two, and they're like, my partner doesn't know why I'm paying to come see you because he just wants to wait and try, and I still think it's worth, right? It's like, let's get you as healthy as possible. So it's still very worth it. But to not be in the fear mindset during that process, it's like be empowered. Like, just know that I'm doing all of this. It's going to help me no matter what, pregnancy or not. I'm going to be healthier. So this is a gift to myself, first and foremost. And then it'll be a gift to my children, and get in that mindset of just not thinking that you're going to have fertility issues unless you know that you do. Like you have to, if you're under 35, you have to have been trying for a year to be diagnosed with infertility. And even that word I don't like because most people are not infertile. Infertile kind of implies that you can't have children. Most of those people will get pregnant eventually. Only
Hmm.
like 1% plus or minus 2% plus or minus 1% of the population is truly like sterile. Like,
Wow.
so, we use this as a diagnostic code in medicine, but then it puts that label on the person, and then they're walking around feeling like, oh, I'm never gonna have a baby. And it adds so
Yeah.
much stress, right?
Right.
Unnecessary stress.
And the
S-
narrative in your mind is going to create your reality too,
Yes.
in so many ways.
And it takes the fun out of like, reproduction. It's kind of like almost redundant because if we're having sex, like the point of sex from a very biological basic standpoint is to reproduce. So if like you're having regular intercourse with your partner, the the pregnancy hopefully should come like regardless, so you don't have to focus so much on fertility and just focus on like connecting with your partner, having sex. And then yes, of course, like still be proactive. Like I still think you should do all the things to get healthy before you conceive for all those reasons I named earlier, but like don't be in that fear-based loop of like I'm so worried because I see all my friends and all these people having trouble around me, because I don't think that helps the situation at all. I think it actually worsens it. And, I see so many partners then feeling like, it causes friction in the relationship because they're like, my partner just wants sex on demand and they only want to conceive during their ovulation window. And, women are using, different gadgets to like track their cycle incessantly and like track their hormones incessantly. And it's like creating so much stress,
Yep.
constantly
Yeah.
having all of that data to analyze and micro, like analyze in their head, and they're like, but I saw this, and then my progesterone was this level. And I'm
Mhm.
like, girl, you got to put that stuff down.
Becomes
Like
an
it
obsession.
does.
Well, and it's the same thing with anyone that has an illness, an autoimmune,
Hmm.
cancer, whatever they have. If you focus too much on that and trying to stress over getting it perfect, it's taking away the joy of living life,
Hmm.
which that joy and living life in a healthy way is what's really the healing medicine.
Yeah, I know. And what else are we here for if not to have fun?
Yeah, and all
Enjoy
we
our
have is
lives.
this present moment.
Right.
So to breathe into it and go, wow, I mean, what a miracle I am in this moment.
Yeah.
And to really feel into it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be so potent.
I know. And I don't think many people feel that.
Yeah.
I think I'm so grateful that I'm seeing more and more people talk about this, because I do think it's like it's coming into the conversation a lot more, at least in the spheres that I'm involved with. But yeah, I just see, like, yeah, a lot of fear driven, responses. And, some of the communities that I'm in of just like really worrying, too much about, yeah, about, just stuff that's kind of out of our control, and like, not just focusing on like our own inner world and our inner terrain. And part of that is physical for sure, our environment for sure. And then it's also like our inner thoughts and our microbiome. It's like it's all part of it.
Do you think it could also be what we're consuming? Because we're consumers, right? We've got
Mm-hmm.
billboards all around us. We've got social media, television, and what sells is fear.
Mm-hmm.
The fear mongering. This is what's bad, and here's what you need to buy to fix it.
Right.
And so it's just this constant bombarding of we're consuming, we're consuming, we're consuming when we're made to create.
Mm-hmm.
And literally the
Especially as
creation.
women, especially as women, like the womb is the center of creativity, is where life is created. And when we're connected to our wombs and like in our feminine energy, like that's all of our creative potential,
Yeah.
to birth a child, a gift into this world, an idea, our work, like, and so many women are disconnected to their wombs, from physical trauma there, having a bad relationship with their menstrual cycle, cultural shaming, so a lot, especially early in my practice, but I still love, it's like one of the things I love, helping women like heal the relationship with their womb, and, have easy periods and balance their hormones so that they're not in pain every month. And just like, even just put the simple practice of putting your hands on your womb space and like calling your attention to this part of the body can be really profound for some women, because they just disassociate sometimes from sexual trauma and different things that happen early in life, and it's too painful. But this is like, it's I don't know. I feel like this center for us is our source of power
Yeah. Give
and
it some
creativity.
love and compassion. And
Mhm.
like you're talking about how you dance and you're singing and
Mhm.
you're creating.
Yeah.
You're getting into that creative space and that joy and that play. And that really is where all the healing medicine is. All right, you guys, if you haven't already gotten the Hydrate book, let me tell you why this book is so special. First of all, it took me about 4 years to complete this book, but I made it so that you could put it on your coffee table, give it as a gift to the person that has everything, and it pretty much fits into every decor. I go through my 9 pillars of health, and I really make science fun and playful. So you can open it to any page, get inspiration, and learn some deep science in a fun and playful way. I highly suggest this as a gift to the person that has everything. They say that love is the most healing medicine on the planet. It's like, and you think about it, the times that where you perceived you were in love, maybe you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling these feelings. You feel like you could stay up all night and talk to this person. You could run faster, work out
Yeah.
harder at the gym. Like
Totally.
everything's great, right?
Mhm.
And then we both know that experience when it breaks down and you're going through that pain, you feel more tired than ever. Like all these energy resources are going towards thinking about what went wrong, what you need to do right, what's all the fears that are coming up. And the brain is the most hungry organ in our body. And so when we're ruminating and thinking about all these things. It's taking all that energy to focus on the problem as opposed to that energy going towards healing in the body
Mm.
and towards healing your cells and your mitochondria being able to be at their highest level to intelligently nourish your cells. And we're the ones that are doing that with the narrative, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm scared. What if this happens? What if that happens? What do I need to do here? What do I need to do there? And um, I think it's just so powerful what you're talking about. This message that you're sharing is so potent, and all of us can benefit from it.
Yeah. Yes. I know. Just remembering like we are inherently deserving and like perfect just as we are. Like we don't have to do anything or accomplish anything or be any way to be like worthy of love. And that starts with us, like loving ourselves. And I just, yeah, I think it's a really important thing from, like you said, like marketing and things sell based on fear. And it's also like this lack mentality. It's like that there's a void or something we need to like fill in ourselves, that we need all these things, right? To be happy or to be beautiful or, to meet these unrealistic standards, and it's just the way society has kind of shaped. And we're in a masculine dominated society. From an energetic standpoint, it's like it's all about how much we produce, like how much we produce on a daily basis in terms of like productivity and our, how much we make and, everything. And I'm not like immune to that. I want wealth. Like I want nice things, like we all want, like, I think a lot of the same stuff, but we have to slow down,
Hmm.
and
We get to slow down.
we get to
We
slow
get to do that.
down.
And like we forget that we get to do it because we're like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, I get to slow down.
Yeah.
One of the things that helps us slow down the most is just getting back in nature.
Mhm.
I've gotten this like obsession with the birds now and just listening to how they communicate with each other and other animals
Yeah.
in my garden and other insects. And when
Mhm.
you really slow down, it's so beautiful. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that bird's talking to that one over there. And he's saying that there's a cat over here. And, they're alerting each other. And then, I don't know. It's so fun to start to just slow down and pay attention to what's happening. And I just fall in love with like the creatures around me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. I just got this beehive, and I just go sit with the bees and
That's
like listen to them
amazing.
buzz, and I'm always so proud of them. I'm like, you guys are working so hard. I'm so proud of you.
This is a really beautiful sanctuary. I mean, this is so nice. And I think, yeah, it's so funny. Like one of the therapists I was working with post separation, she would have me do this exercise and it drove me nuts. She was like, okay, before we start, I want you to name 5 things that you see around you. I hated it. It drove me
Yeah.
crazy. So I'd be like, I see a green bush. And it felt so juvenile
Yeah.
and silly. And it's like, it's so funny because now before I eat, like, I look at so many stool tests for people and there's so much poor digestion. So many people's guts are not functioning well for them. It's a big problem. And one of the things I'm always telling my patients, like, yes, digestive enzymes, bitters, like all these things can be helpful, but also just like being present
Mm-hmm.
with your food,
Yeah.
chewing your food, not being on screens while we're eating. This is one of the hardest things for me, I will admit. Like in between my lunch hour,
Yeah.
I'll have messages or, I'm trying to catch up on things while I'm eating. And I have to be like, put your phone down. Because our body doesn't know the difference between running from a tiger and scrolling. So even if we just think we're mindlessly scrolling and watching reels on Instagram while we're eating our lunch, like it's a stress to the
So even the
body.
funny cat videos are stressful.
I think so. The studies that I've seen show that like our body, like it interprets that as stressful, like these devices stress out our system. So then when we're in stress modes, it was just sympathetic nervous system, we don't digest. So it's like,
Yeah.
I have this practice that I do personally, and I teach my patients of like, try to eat your breakfast outside. Then you're getting that morning sunlight,
Right.
setting your circadian rhythm. Don't bring your device. And then when you're not connected to a device, or go for a walk without a podcast or without your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's uncomfortable. Like
Yeah, it
as
is.
we're all addicted to our devices, but
Even if it's just music, right? It's like, how
right.
do I go for a run without music? I have to be alone with my thoughts.
I know.
But I get to be alone with my
Right.
thoughts.
And then you start to notice the
Yeah.
birds and the bees and like, the things around you that like we're so like it's
We're missing out
crazy.
on the miracles that are all
Right.
around us that are just so beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get into some tips on how you prepare for pregnancy. You're talking about a year before if you want to prepare.
Mhm.
And I also want you to share about how not just the woman can prepare, but
Man.
the male can prepare as well, because
Mhm.
we're learning that this is equally
Yeah,
as important.
it is. Yeah. So there's a term that I use called the trimester, which is like the trimester before you conceive, and it should be at least 4 to 6 months because the process of creating a brand new sperm from start to finish takes 90 days. So that's called spermatogenesis, and that process is 90 days. So everything that a man does, his thoughts, his lifestyle, his supplements, his nutrition, the toxins that he's exposed to, cannabis use, alcohol, all of that is going to influence the quality of his sperm. And in those, 90 days. And we don't know, where a person is in that process. So we say 4 to 6 months because we want to give a buffer, right? Of like to make sure we encapsulate a whole entire spermatogenesis cycle by the time you actually then have that
That makes
sperm.
sense.
Right.
You don't want
Um,
one of those being
yeah.
left over.
And, I, as somebody who looks at a lot of semen analysis for men, male fertility is not great as
Mm,
a general. A lot of men have the number one thing I see is poor morphology. So I can't
really?
remember and that's the shape of the sperm. I
Yeah.
can't remember the exact statistics, but if there's a chart that I have on the World Health criteria for what is considered normal amount of normal shaped sperm over the years. And just in the last like 20 to 40 years, like what we used to classify as normal is 50% of sperm being normal shape. Now it's 4%.
What?
4% is the standard. So you don't
4%?
get like a red mark on your semen analysis unless you have less than 4% of your sperm normal. So I'm always like, because they'll be like, oh, my reproductive
Oh, wow.
endocrinologist said the semen analysis was fine for my husband. So like he doesn't want to change anything or like be part of this conversation because he's been given the clear. And I'm like, let me see those results because optimal is at least 15% normal shape.
That's
So
it to be optimal?
at this
15%.
stage, like
That's
that's the best. And
scary.
I've never seen 15%. I've seen
Oh
6,
my
I've seen 8, I've
goodness.
never seen
Even
15.
in younger men. Like, we're talking
I
partners that
mean,
are like
I think like
25 or something?
I don't see a lot of
Okay.
25-year-old men in my practice. I'm always just like grateful. I've had one male book a joint
We need
fertility
to start
consult
getting the younger guys, because that would be interesting if there was a study to see, like, at what age did this start to
start to
change?
decline. I
Yeah.
mean, I imagine it's, just because we see kids with chronic health, like, I would imagine it's impacting. I know for women, they've done studies like all women in all age groups are seeing decline in fertility. It's not just older women, so a lot of women, once they're in their 30s, start to really freak out, past 30, 35, really worry. But we're seeing fertility decline in all age groups.
Okay, hey, we have always been told this story like, "Oh, you're getting older, your
Hmm.
eggs aren't as good."
Hmm.
When the guys over here are on average 4% with good sperm. Is everybody listening to this?
Yeah, it's baffling. I
Whoa.
know. And then, yeah, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of women that will come and be like, my partner, doesn't understand why I'm here. Like they don't see why we should, worry until we haven't started trying. And for the reasons I said before, like, yeah, don't worry about infertility, but still be proactive because, that's the message I'm like really passionate about
Mhm.
getting out because I don't think people are just thinking about getting pregnant, but they're not thinking about how the health of that sperm, the health of the egg at the time of conception influences the genetic expression you pass to your child. So, you can literally turn on and off your
Yep.
genes through your lifestyle choices, your diet, your lifestyle, your supplements, and your thoughts, in this trimester before conceiving. And so I think every parent wants, to set their kid up for good health. But I just don't think that information is like people understand that there's like so much benefit because, there's a reduced risk of infertility issues, reduced risk of miscarriage, healthier kids, less atopic issues, eczema, asthma, allergies. That makes the first year postpartum so much easier if your child isn't so uncomfortable with eczema and all these issues.
Yeah.
Um, then, like postpartum's easier. Like there's just so many benefits. And then we see now the long-term benefits of like less risk of diabetes, reduced metabolic issues in children, and heart issues with children who have different trimester support leading in. So, and then that impacting future generations. So I just feel like there's this really critical window of opportunity that, you know, we're missing as a society to really make a huge impact on future generations, if more people were thinking about this and invested in it. But again, not from a fear-based way. But both parties are totally, a lot of women feel like when they miscarry that it's all their fault because they're
Yeah.
like, well, we got pregnant, so it can't be my partner's fault.
Yeah.
There are male factor reasons that cause miscarriage, and if you've had a miscarriage, you should have your partner worked up for DNA fragmentation and you know, and that's not, there's so many people that just assume it's them, so many women just
Yeah.
assume it's something wrong with their body and feel shame, and feel that responsibility and burden totally on them. But it's, fertility issues are pretty split across both genders, both sexes, and
So both are just as important.
both are just as
And
important.
it's 50-50 coming in here,
Right.
right? You got
And we share, our microbiome is like 70% of our immune system.
Yeah.
And there's a huge gut brain connection.
We're
So our
sharing that with our
mood and
partner.
everything is impacted by our gut. There's crosstalk between our gut and our brain. And actually, like 80% of the talking is from your gut. It's like the friend that is talking way too much in the relationship. That's your gut. So, there's so much benefit. I offer discounts to family members. Like if I have an established patient, I offer a discount on their partner or their child because treating the family, like treating, everyone in the home makes such a bigger impact because it's influencing your gut microbiome. There's a crazy study that shows if someone in your household takes antibiotics, your gut microbiome incurs a similar lowering in the alpha diversity, which is like the total number of microbes you have in your gut, and you didn't even take the antibiotics, which is
Whoa.
wild,
Wow.
So,
It makes
and you
sense,
mentioned like
though.
who you're kissing. I mean,
Oh,
people don't think
yeah.
about kissing that you're sharing a
Oh,
big
gosh.
microbiome with people when you kiss them.
I think
So
I've scared my daughters into kissing anyone. Both of them have not even had their first kiss yet. And I'm like, I barely kissed anyone in my entire life because I was like, it's just, it's just too much. Sometimes your brain is
yeah,
like,
I
I don't
know.
know what's in that
Yeah.
mouth.
But this is the journey. I mean, I'm on it too. It's like I have all this information, right? And it can stress me out. It definitely could stress out my
Yeah.
ex, that was like not part of his favorite thing, of like walking me through medical school and learning all this because it's stressful sometimes to know so much and I feel like we have to worry about stuff. So I think we're all just in this dance of like this time of information overload, but also like information is power. And how do we like take this soup that we're all in, like, and be in more of a dance with it, find grace, do what we can, like, and also know that we are like, nobody is ever going to know your body. I tell this to my patients every time I see them, like, I'm never going to know your body and your history like you do. Like, no doctor, like, is ever going to know your unique experience in this world the way you have. You're the only one that has lived in your body from start to finish.
Absolutely.
So hone that, like sharpen that inner intuition and trust.
Yeah.
And knowing that you can make a decision for yourself and say, okay, I'm hearing this and that resonates with me, or I'm being told this and it doesn't resonate with me, but I feel like I should listen to it because this person's in a place of authority. Like, it's just, I think that's also a big piece of it is, and I think that's what I'm so grateful for being a mom and having kids is like with my pregnancy with my daughter, I feel like she was guiding me to like just trust in like delivering her in a certain way that, was freaking out everyone in my life. But like then I had the most beautiful ecstatic birth and I was like, I'm never doubting my intuition again because I felt it so strong. But like almost everyone around me was like, are you nuts? Like, are you nuts?
Do you want to share what that was? What was this ecstatic birth experience?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it feels like I almost died, and that might sound dramatic, but in my birth with my son, I had him at home and I had a massive hemorrhage. So after laboring, at home, well, my midwife was actually in an emergency situation. Her brother was in the hospital, so she wasn't there for the early part of my birth. And so I was home laboring alone for a long time. And by the time she got to my house, I was so calm, and I was already 10 centimeters. And she's like, you were born to birth. Like, this is crazy. You're so calm. You're so chill. And then she just like wanted me to push right away, and everything went awry. And I ended up pushing for like a long time. And I ended up hemorrhaging and had to be transferred to the hospital after he was born, and like lost half my blood. It was not a good scene, and it was very traumatic, and postpartum was hard in certain ways, like physically, like recovering after that. I had to get a blood transfusion. So it was pretty traumatic. And then when I got pregnant with my daughter, everything was telling me to kind of have a free birth, which is where you just don't have anyone there. And everyone in my life thought I was insane, because like, you almost died in
Yeah.
childbirth having a home birth before with a licensed midwife. Like, what in the world would compel you
Yeah.
to not have anyone there to support? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
You
know,
just knew, though.
other than this is like,
Your gut was telling
I
you.
can't stop thinking about it. And I found these midwives that were willing to, they said they were willing to just be on site, but
Mhm.
like not actually be in the room with me. And so I worked, and they were lovely. And I worked with them for like my whole pregnancy. And then my dad died a month before I gave birth to my daughter. And I came home, and I was kind of like in this really deep spiritual portal after losing my dad. And they were like, we just want to go through the criteria and like explain to you what's going to happen. We're going to have to check you every 15 minutes, like do a vaginal check or do a heart tone check. And I was like, every 15 minutes? That's not what I envisioned. Like, you're going to disrupt my flow. Because all I knew from
Yeah.
my past birth was like, when I was alone, everything was good. And then when all these
Yeah.
people got there, it disconnected me, I think, from the process and from my son. And that's what I felt like went wrong in that birth.
Oh.
And so I felt really attached to this idea of just like not having anything disrupt the connection to my baby in labor. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. And one of my good friends, I didn't think I had a choice at that time. So I was like, oh, I was 37 weeks pregnant. And she was like, I know you, and this isn't going to work for you. You need to find an option B. And so I found a midwife through a friend that was willing to come and just like sit in my house and do the thing, like, hold space for me so that in case of an emergency, somebody was there, but not actually be in the room.
I love that. That sounds so much more peaceful.
It was incredible. Like, I had, I went into labor, and I was like dancing on like my ball with my baby. And I had this cathartic like moment with my dad, because he had just passed. And
Don't tell me you had an orgasmic birth.
I did.
You did? What the hell? Okay, we
Like,
need
I
to know about
wanted to
this.
give birth.
I hear about this, but I'm like, is this really
I
true?
didn't think it was true either. I mean, I literally wanted more kids. I was like begging my ex. I was like, can we please have because it was the most profound and like incredible feeling of my life. Like, I felt every movement she came through down the birth portal.
Wow.
It was intense, but like, I was just in this place of
Did you feel the ring of fire?
No, I did with my first. But with her, it was just like, I was in this crazy gratitude practice, and it wasn't actually intentional. It just, I think I like figured it out when like I started having intense contractions, that as long as I said like, thank you, body, thank you, baby, I feel you, I trust you, I just like, I kept saying that. And the minute I would stop, like the pain would like come like on tenfold. And so I was like, oh, I'll just keep saying gratitude. So I just was like dancing with her and like saying thank you and like tuning
Oh my
in.
gosh.
And then at some point, I just was like, oh, she's like really low. I didn't know it was a girl actually. And I was like, they're really low. And I'm like, I got to get in that tub that was in my room. By the time I was like fully clothed, and I like got my clothes off somehow, got in the tub, in 3 pushes, she was out. And I was like, I literally stunned. I mean, because it was so easy and so beautiful, like the most beautiful thing. And then I just feel like that was a big moment of me like stepping into my power. I like, the midwife came in, like, because I was like, when I was pushing her, I was like yelling, like roaring. I would say it wasn't like so much pain, but just like this intensity of the moment. And so she like, came in right after I delivered her. She handed her to me. My partner came in at that point, and then I just was looking at him.
So you were all alone. Your partner wasn't even
No, it
with
was
you.
just me and her. And I like knew I needed it because he was so afraid. He was so afraid I was going to die. He was so traumatized.
Yeah, you didn't need that extra energy
And
there.
I'm like, listen, if
Yeah.
you don't go to like therapy or work out, like I can feel your fear, and I can't have that in that space.
Okay.
Like, cause I was scared. I'm like, I'm scared. I don't know if this is gonna work out the way I think it
Right.
is, but something is telling me to do this. And like my daughter, if you like ever get the chance to meet her. She is so powerful. She's a Scorpio. She was born in Call, which is like in her
I'm a
amniotic
triple
sac.
Scorpio.
Oh my gosh. I love you. That's why I love you. She is so powerful and wise. Like she has been on this earth way before me, like many times. Like she's like the one in charge. She was definitely guiding that experience. And yeah, I mean, I just feel like she helped, like, especially as a woman who works with women, helps them get pregnant, is like talking to them leading up to their birth. And there's so many women that go through traumatic birth experiences. I feel like it's not a coincidence. Like, I feel like she gave me this gift to help empower my patients, help bring them back into their connection with their body. And like her birth, we separated when she was 2. Her birth was like the catalyst of me coming home to myself and learning to trust, because my ex, like, he didn't trust me. He was always questioning my intuition. And I have a really strong intuition. And he was always kind of making
I
me
can feel that.
self-doubt,
Yeah.
and I needed to like I need to not be in that type of relationship with someone that's like my partner. I need someone who's going to stand by my side and be like, I
Yes.
trust you.
Oh, yeah.
I trust you.
Yep.
Because it was making me lose trust in myself.
Mhm.
And after I had that experience, I was like, never again.
Yeah.
Never fucking again.
Yeah.
Because that was literally the best thing that has ever happened to me. And like, and I knew, but like everyone was just like, you're crazy.
And I feel like those are the times where the most miraculous things happen in our life is when everyone around us is telling us how crazy we are, and there's a true north inside of us that's like, hell no, I know I have to do this. And yeah, I'm scared too. But I just know I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do it, and like, whoa, what an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm like high off of listening to it. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And I can imagine so empowering for so many people listening to this, because your birth story gets to be your own, and you chose what you knew the divine intelligence inside of you was telling you
Yeah.
that you needed to do, or you got to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so off of that amazing high, if we could just focus on 3 things for the male and female to be doing, the most like top 3, let's say top 5, because there's probably a lot, there's so many things. Top 5 things that male and female partner can be doing to prepare for pregnancy. What would you say?
Okay. So since we know the number one thing that influences epigenetic is our thoughts, I really feel like making sure that you're communicating with your partner and that you're in a healthy place, hopefully with them, that like communication is good, you're feeling connected, and you're equally working on that within yourself. So like, and I have like exercises that I'll give my patients of like, do these journaling prompts and do the like, what are the limiting beliefs you have around fertility, but really don't shame yourself. Like we all have limiting beliefs. We all have negative self-talk. So there's nothing wrong with you if that's your experience. We all do that. But it's like learning to identify it, just observe it, and like give it grace and let it move on and try to reframe, And so that fake it till you make it thing, like circling back to that, like let's try to rewrite that into something positive and affirming. I would say that's big. I would say that nutrition is huge. So like trying to, get a diet that's rich in plants, rich in polyphenols, rich in fiber, functional fibers that, feed your microbiome and foster a good healthy terrain, because the microbiome influences so much of our hormones and influences so much of our fertility then. So, I don't think we can out supplement a good diet. So I think eating whole foods and eating lots of plants is super vital. Toxins for men, are a huge part of male fertility, and also for women, like the oxidative damage and stress that comes from a lot of toxin exposure. So, and ways to reduce toxin in the environment, whether that's filtering your drinking water, buying organic, switching out products in your home that you're using that are really toxic. But that can be a really overwhelming, so start in a way that's again digestible, that's feasible for your family. But this is where like the 2-year out mark is nice to have that kind of time frame to think about this, like maybe even 5 years out from wanting to have kids. But trying to go slow and incremental with some of these changes. Like it took me a long time to get to the place now where my home is mostly toxin free, but it started with organic food, and then I started looking at my beauty products, and then I was like, oh, I don't want carpet, and then like getting a drinking water, filtered water, and then I have air purifiers in every room. But it's expensive,
Yeah.
and it can be really overwhelming if you try to overhaul all at once.
Yeah.
So, like the things that you have the most exposure to, like your water, like filtering your drinking water is just a great way to reduce the amount. So, if you're drinking water and then you're cooking with it and things like that, so that can be a huge reduce in toxin. But yeah, lots of good supplements for fertility are antioxidants. So they're doing the reverse of the things that are causing all that oxidative
Mhm.
damage. So, for men, like I'm often using some sort of blend of NAC, CoQ10, green tea, ashwagandha. And for women, I use a lot of NAC, melatonin. I mean, a lot of women have blood sugar issues, so balancing blood sugar. And I do think there's good reason to obviously look at all your labs and make sure you don't have any major red flags like blood sugar issues and things like that. And I'm really big on like circadian rhythm balancing. So, that I mentioned like eating breakfast outside and trying to set your circadian rhythm with the sun, but light exposure, paying attention to the lighting in your home. I would say this is kind of like the last step in my like healthy home thing that I've been doing is like switching out all the light bulbs. So like when I'm in the evening, I don't have any lights on that are like LED bright lights. They're
Yeah.
all like dim, or
Makes
like
such a huge difference.
it makes such a huge difference. And we're seeing like young girls start puberty really early,
Yeah.
and all of these issues, and the circadian rhythm affects like melatonin production. All of that affects our sleep, our hormones. And so it actually, as we are less spending less and less time outside as a population, and more time indoors with artificial lighting and LED lighting and flicker lighting, it really does actually mess with our nervous systems and our
Mhm.
hormones. So that is a piece. But that can feel way off for some people. But if you're already like well into your journey and still struggling, like that's a place. Like I've recently like swapped out all the lights in my house and paying a lot more attention to that. And so I feel like, those are the main things that come to mind. I think focusing on your gut, focusing on, the inner talk, that dialogue, the relationships in your life. Like, is there space for a baby right now? Like some people are just working so much and they're like, well, I'm planning to not work as much once I have a child. But we almost have to get into the mindset of like, I'm pregnant now, like embody that feeling, it's like, you have to, like, when you're pregnant, you're not going to drink and smoke cigarettes, and a lot of women are really motivated then to like eat better. So it's like you kind of have to you get into that pregnancy mindset before you actually have the
Yeah.
positive test. Stop drinking, and putting toxic substances in your body, and just already kind of embody that feeling of I'm pregnant. I'm already a vessel that's preparing for life
Mm.
or holding life.
Yeah. Get to be this amazing vessel to a portal
It's a
for another.
portal.
It's so cool. When you
It's
really think about it, it's like, gosh, our bodies are so fantastic, you know?
I know.
We look at our kids and it's just, I know, I think about my daughters and I'm like, wow, like you just feed them and they grow. You're like
I know.
a complicated plant, you know?
It's so wild. And the
But you're
body, I
here.
love what you said before I think we started recording about like the body being so self-healing, because that's one of the naturopathic medicine, that's one of our core 6 principles. It's called the Vis Mediatrix Natura. It's like the healing power of nature. And it's like if we just get obstacles out of the way,
Yeah.
the body actually knows what to do. But we have so many obstacles in the way right now
Yeah.
in modern life. And so it can feel really overwhelming, but we just got to start trying to like get back to the roots and like removing these obstacles to cure, because no matter what condition you're dealing with, most of the times when you set these foundations up and remove those obstacles, the body will self heal. The
Yep.
body will work itself out.
I love that you said that, and there's so many amazing supplements, so many amazing tools that we can do, but they don't out like perform these basics that we talked about today. And I truly believe unless the light's coming in through us, unless our morphogenetic field is clear, and that gets clear when there isn't dissonance in our thoughts and the way we think of ourselves and our relationships and our connection with our divine creator, when those things open up and the light can come through us, then everything else that we do just gets amplified and works better.
Mm-hmm.
This has been such a fun conversation with you. We've gone almost 2 hours. And it's like we were in a portal, didn't even realize how much time had gone. But that's what I love about this show is it's just like people are sitting in the living room with us having a conversation about real things. So thank you for showing up today, being so present and sharing so many nuggets for all of us to take and really be our higher selves because of this knowledge and empowering information that we have. So I know you live in Portland, but you work virtually with clients. So I will have our producer put all of your information in the show notes. So anybody that wants to connect with you or maybe work privately with you, they can find you in all your social media and your website. And thank you so much for making the trip out here.
Yeah, it's been such a fun time having this conversation with you. Thanks for hosting me.